Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is Pro-Revenge Story. The environment. I work in IT at a tech company where working time is usually handled leniently. You can work any weekday between 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., just not more than 12 hours a day, and you have to get your 40 hours in every week, with some overflow allowed. But you're not allowed to work outside these hours or on weekends unless you get a written permit from a central HR board. The first incident. In March 2025, I got a weekend call about an important system going down. Nothing too complex. I canceled my Saturday evening plans and went in. The fix was straightforward. Switch to the backup server, load config files, reload the backups, and everything was back up within 2 hours. The following week, I had to do it all again because the backup hardware used wasn't powerful enough. The fallout. During the next week, things got messy. The supply office manager called me. "Did you authorize the use of our backup server?" "Yes, the system was down. What else was I supposed to do?" "You know the protocol. That server is supposed to remain in reserve. None of your team was available when we needed it urgently. I submitted the replacement order first thing Monday." He sighed, then chuckled. "Look, I get it. Just had to note it down. Official guidelines. Be more careful next time, okay?" Then came HR. Sandra from HR sent me a formal notice stating the Saturday repair wasn't covered by any required written permit. She didn't understand IT operations at all. "This is a serious violation," she told me during our meeting. "You need written permission at least a week in advance." "But it was an emergency," I explained. "Rules are rules. You won't be paid for that time, and you're getting a warning. Another incident like this could jeopardize your position." I got all this in writing. For the next 3 months, I carefully watched my hours, and luckily, no critical systems failed on weekends. The setup. In July 2025, our company planned a prestigious week-long international conference. Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. start, with 90% external guests. I was tasked with IT setup at a local venue. "We need full network coverage," my manager said. "Make it impressive." We visited the location and discovered only a closed network was available. I ordered high-end access points, projectors, and all necessary equipment with our generous budget. Everything arrived 2 weeks before the conference. Monday of setup week, I configured the access points and tested all hardware. Tuesday, I arrived to find the venue occupied. "What's going on?" I asked our event coordinator. "Slight scheduling error. The venue's booked until Friday noon." After a day of escalations, we got permission to start setup Friday afternoon. "Half a day won't be enough," I told my manager Wednesday morning. "This is 4 days of work minimum. I can work through the weekend to get it ready for Monday." "Fine. File for the special permit. I'll mark it urgent." Thursday, I prepped everything I could off-site. Friday morning, still no permit. I called HR. "Your application missed this week's board meeting," Sandra said flatly. "Should have applied a week earlier." When I informed the event coordinator, his face went through several shades. "I'll handle HR directly," he promised. By 2 p.m. Friday, I finally accessed the venue. Got the projector system running by 5 p.m. The coordinator checked in. "Any word on the permit?" "Sandra's out for the day. No approval yet." At 7:55 p.m., I secured the equipment and prepared to leave. "Wait, when will everything be ready?" the coordinator asked anxiously. "Monday morning is the earliest I can start again. It won't be ready for the 8 a.m. start." I enjoyed my weekend, phone off, ignoring the flood of emails. Monday, 7 a.m., I returned to chaos. The coordinator practically ran to me. "The first guests arrive in 30 minutes. How long for the check-in system?" Registration wasn't ready until 9 a.m. No Wi-Fi, no internet for presentations, no streaming. The COO found me before the coffee break, fuming about embarrassing the company internationally. I showed him Sandra's warning letter. He immediately wrote, "Mr. My name is permitted to work as much overtime as needed and is permitted to acquire all resources he deems necessary." Signed by him and the head of HR. We hired electricians to run cables, and I worked until 4 a.m. to have everything operational by day 2. The rest of the event ran perfectly. Aftermath. Sandra was reassigned, and I now have direct access to the HR head's personal number for overtime requests. Sometimes malicious compliance pays off. The next one is an entitled people story. I've lived in my little suburban home for about 5 years now. It's nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a small yard, but it's mine and I've worked hard for it. The neighborhood is generally quiet, mostly families and working professionals who keep to themselves. That all changed when Janet moved in across the street about 8 months ago. From day one, something seemed off about her. She was probably in her late 40s with that classic "can I speak to your manager" haircut and an attitude to match. When she first moved in, I tried to be neighborly. I brought over a welcome basket with some basic household items and snacks. She accepted it with a tight smile but made some comment about how the cookies I included looked store-bought. They were homemade, by the way. I brushed it off as someone having a bad day from moving stress. Boy, was I wrong. The first real issue happened about 3 weeks after she moved in. I was doing some yard work when she marched across the street and informed me that my rose bushes were too tall and blocking her view. Mind you, these bushes were well within my property line and maybe 4 feet tall at most. When I politely explained that I liked them at that height, she huffed and said, "Well, the neighborhood was nicer before you people moved in." I'm still not sure what "you people" meant, but I decided to just avoid her after that. Over the next few months, Janet complained about everything, my car being parked in my own driveway. It's an eyesore. The color I painted my front door, that shade of blue is tacky. And even the wind chimes on my porch, noise pollution. I mostly just nodded and went about my business, which seemed to infuriate her even more. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was enjoying a rare day off by binge-watching a new show on Netflix. I heard knocking at my door, which I ignored since I wasn't expecting anyone. The knocking got louder and more insistent until it sounded like someone was trying to break the door down. When I finally opened it, there stood Janet, doing an odd little dance. "I need to use your bathroom," she announced without so much as a hello. I was taken aback. Sorry, I'm not comfortable with that." Her face turned red. "My water is shut off for repairs and I really need to go. It'll just take a minute." Now, I might have considered it if she'd been nicer in the past or if she'd asked politely, but something about her demanding tone made me stand firm. "I'm sorry, but no, there's a gas station just 2 blocks away." "That's ridiculous. You have 2 bathrooms in this house. I've seen the layout. You're just being selfish." The fact that she knew my house layout was creepy enough, but her entitlement was what really got to me. I said no. Please respect that. I closed the door, perhaps a bit firmly, and went back to my show. About 20 minutes later, I heard a noise from the back of my house. Thinking it might be a raccoon or something, I went to check it out. To my absolute horror, I found Janet climbing through my kitchen window, which I'd left slightly open to let in the breeze. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted. She had the audacity to look annoyed at me, as if I was the one breaking into her house. "I told you I needed to use the bathroom. You left me no choice." "Get out of my house right now, or I'm calling the police," I said, already reaching for my phone. "Go ahead," she sneered. "They'll understand that in an emergency, neighbors help each other. It's basic human decency, which you clearly lack." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman had broken into my home and was lecturing me about decency. I dialed 911 immediately and reported a break-in. "They're on their way," I told her after hanging up. "Now get out." "Fine, but I'm using your bathroom first. That's why I came." Before I could stop her, she marched down my hallway and into my guest bathroom, locking the door behind her. I stood outside, seething, until she emerged a few minutes later with a satisfied smirk. "See? That wasn't so hard. You could have just been a decent neighbor." The police arrived about 10 minutes later, and to my relief, they took the situation seriously. When I explained what had happened, they asked Janet for her side of the story. Her explanation was wild. "I have a medical condition that requires immediate bathroom access," she claimed. "It's against the Americans with Disabilities Act to deny me access to facilities. Plus, as a taxpayer and member of this community, I have the right to use any bathroom in an emergency situation." The officers exchanged a look that I can only describe as, "We've got a live one here." "Ma'am, that's not how the ADA works, and you definitely don't have the right to break into someone's home for any reason," one officer explained patiently. "I didn't break in. The window was open," she protested. "Entering someone's home without permission through a window is still breaking and entering," the officer replied. When they told her she was being arrested for breaking and entering, she completely lost it. She started screaming about how I was discriminating against her medical needs and that she was going to sue everyone. The officers had to practically drag her to the patrol car while she continued her tirade. As they were putting her in the car, she shouted, "You'll be hearing from my lawyer. I know my rights." One of the officers came back to take my statement and advised me to file for a restraining order. He also suggested I check my house to make sure nothing was missing, as sometimes people use bizarre excuses like needing a bathroom as a cover for theft. I did a thorough check, and thankfully, nothing seemed to be missing. I filed for the restraining order the following Monday. 2 weeks later, I had to appear in court for her arraignment. She pleaded not guilty, claiming it was an emergency situation and that I was vindictively prosecuting her. The judge wasn't buying it and set a trial date, also approving my restraining order. The trial itself was almost comical. Janet represented herself, which the judge strongly advised against, but she insisted she could present the facts more accurately than any lawyer. Her defense consisted mainly of rambling about neighborhood obligations, her supposed medical condition, which she never provided documentation for, and how I was part of a neighborhood conspiracy against her. The prosecutor simply presented the facts. She admitted to entering my home without permission through a window after I explicitly told her she couldn't come in. Open and shut case. She was found guilty of breaking and entering, though the charge was reduced to a misdemeanor since nothing was stolen. She got 6 months probation, a $1,000 fine, and a stern warning from the judge about respecting other people's property. The restraining order meant she had to stay at least 100 feet away from me and my property, which was difficult since we lived across from each other. Within a month, she put her house up for sale. Before she moved out, she left a letter in my mailbox, technically violating the restraining order, but I didn't report it. It wasn't an apology, far from it. It was a 4-page rant about how I was a terrible neighbor who destroyed the community spirit and how she hoped I would get what's coming to me someday. I threw it away and breathed a sigh of relief when the moving truck came. The new neighbors who bought her house are a young couple with a toddler who wave whenever they see me and keep to themselves otherwise. Perfect neighbors in my book. The whole experience taught me a valuable lesson about standing my ground and not letting entitled people walk all over me. And yes, I now keep all my windows locked, even when I'm home. As for Janet, I heard through neighborhood gossip that she moved to a condo development with strict HOA rules. I can only imagine how well that's working out for her neighbors. Some people just never learn. The next one is a malicious compliance story. This happened to me a while back, but just came back to me. I used to work for an armored car company, something I did for a few years when I was in university and waiting for a position in what would be my future career. It was good money and lots of people did it as their full-time jobs, but I wanted more out of life than a mindless job. Because I was classified as part-time, I did not have a set shift. I mostly covered for people when they were sick, took vacation, worked unscheduled shifts, or worked shifts created specifically for part-timers. All in all, I was working full-time hours almost every week.
Most of the full-timers loved working with me. The way the company worked, you were set for a 13-hour shift. However, if you managed to complete your run is less than that, you'd still get paid the full shift. I was young, moved fast, and didn't care about breaks if it meant I could get paid for 3-4 hours to sit at home instead of working. So whenever I took over for someone older who was just on autopilot, I could get their coworker home in a fraction of the time. One of the full-time workers, a real Karen, let's call him Kyle, was just the worst. For some reason, he took it upon himself to tattle on people for anything that he didn't like. If someone weren't wearing their collared shirt under their sweater, run to tell management. FYI, working in the summer heat in a literal metal box wearing a bulletproof vest makes you want to shed layers. Someone wearing black instead of blue pants tells management. Someone wearing a company hat that has the company logo but is not official uniform tells management. No one in the company liked Kyle. Well, one week, Kyle's co-worker has taken vacation, and my boss schedules me to replace him. The run is pretty easy. It's commercial day shift, so 90% of the stops are retail stores with less than a few $100 in cash. Because of the amount of money, no one has ever had a problem with one person jumping out and running in, grabbing the money and coming back, while the second person, usually the driver, stays with the truck. In this shift, I was the driver, so that's what I did. When Kyle was in the store, I would just navigate my phone, look at the people in the area, make sure there were no threats, make sure I wasn't parked in anyone's way, mostly wasting time. Well, one stop. Kyle came back and I was just finishing up writing an email. Apparently, Kyle wasn't too happy with me taking a few extra seconds to start going. To unbeknownst to me took a picture of me behind the wheel on my phone. I had no idea until the next shift came the next day where management came to talk to me about texting and driving. I told them I had no idea what they were talking about and my manager just said that he had proof I was doing it and if I did it again I would be written up. I went to talk to another coworker who is also the union rep to figure out what the hell was going on, and he told me Kyle took a picture of me yesterday and complained that I was doing it. I was pissed. Cue malicious compliance.
My shifts with Kyle were 3 13-hour shifts, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Well, today was now Thursday, our last shift of this run, and this shift was not retail pickups. It was the run that takes all the money collected from the previous week and brings it to our provincial depot about 400 kilometers away. The entire run only has about 30 mins of work and about 9 hours of driving. If you did the math, this is one of those runs where if you get it done quickly, if traffic is on your side, you can get paid for a lot of unworked time. It was also the last shift of the week, which meant a long, gorgeous weekend in the middle of summer as soon as we were done. Well, I was going to make sure this shift lasted as long as possible. If he didn't want me to break any rules, I'd make sure I obliged. I drove exactly the speed limit the entire way. I even stopped for our 1-hour lunch break, which is given to us, but I had not witnessed anyone take in the years I'd been here because of the rules we had about pay. In fact, we were so behind, we reached the major city our depot was located in right at rush hour, something our early start time was designed to prevent. All in all, what should have taken about 9 hours to do ended up taking 14. An extra 5 hours where he just had to sit there and watch me in silence. To make things sweeter, a few times during the shift he had to call his wife and let her know he wouldn't be home early enough to go to the cottage and they would have to leave the next day instead. I heard from other workers how furious he was and how I'd ruined his plans for the weekend, and all I could do was smile. To clarify, where I live, going 15 to 20 kilometers per h above the speed limit is standard. Going to speed limit will just get someone smashing into your rear bumper. Also, our trucks have a max speed of 105 kilometers per h, and most of the drive is either 80 kilometers per h or 100 kilometers per h. The next one is an entitled people story. Hi guys, I know it's been a while since I posted here, but unfortunately, Candy is back to her shenanigans. I remember how much people enjoyed reading about her in the past, so I figured I'd make an update. This is the first big thing to happen with her since she moved to another state, and I really only see her on holidays and birthdays. I'm still mostly no contact with her and still have her blocked on everything. I'll add a refresher for everybody. I'm 22F, my older half-sister Candy is 28F. I fostered her youngest son for over a year because she had a drug addiction that got custody of all 3 of her kids being taken. The older 2 still live with their father full-time, and Candy only gets them over the summer, every other holiday. She's currently engaged to a guy I'll call Cody, fake name Obvi, and I don't know his exact age, I just know he's nearly in his 30s. Together, they have my youngest nephew, Nugget, and have since gotten custody of my stepnephew. He has no involvement in this update. And have since had my youngest niece, who is almost 7 months old. We'll call her Peanut. Now, on to the update. On Thursday, the 20th of March, my mom's older brother had another massive heart attack. It was super scary. He actually died and had to be given chest compressions and be shocked once, which revived him. He was on a ventilator, and none of us knew if he'd live or die. My mom called me to inform me, and I drove with my friend, ex-boyfriend, to where my uncle lives around 2 hours away. I sat with him, my mom, her youngest brother, and my aunt for a while until after visiting hours were over, and then we drove to my aunt's house, who is my uncle's ex-wife, but they share custody of my cousins. It was there that I saw my sister. I was already super stressed out and on the verge of a breakdown, and seeing her instantly turned my mood sour. Well, guess what, guys? I should have seen this coming. I ** seeking no better, but yeah, she lied about having a hysterectomy. Not once, but 3 times. She's now claiming the doctors performing her C-section just decided not to do it against her wishes, which is bullcrap. Yeah, the first thing she said to me when I got there was, so, guess what? I'm pregnant. That is the last thing I wanted to hear in that moment. I immediately turned to my friend, ex-boyfriend, we'll call him Jason, and told him I'm not raising another one of her kids. Well, as usual for Candy, she tried to make the entire family emergency about her. We were trying to have a really hard conversation with my uncle's oldest 3 kids, 22M, 19F, and 12F, about the possibility of him not waking up, and what we'd do if he didn't wake up, or what we'd do if he did. To make matters worse, my oldest cousin, we'll call him Larry, is also expecting his first child with his girlfriend. We couldn't get through a single sentence without Candy blurting out, "Yeah, I'm pregnant. By the way, I'm pregnant. I don't need this stress while I'm pregnant." She wouldn't even let Larry talk about how he was becoming a father. She was also vaping, knowing damn well she's pregnant. And my uncle also happened to have his heart attack on the 2nd-year anniversary of Candy's sobriety, and she couldn't stop talking about it. She kept making comments of course he had to pull this on my sobriety anniversary. Like, girl, our uncle might die, this is not the time or place. Jason was trying to keep me calm. I was trying to keep my mom and cousins calm. It was a total disaster. There are things my uncle did that caused the heart attack, but Candy was acting like it was a personal attack on her, that he happened to have one on that day. And I don't think it was actually her 2-year sobriety anniversary, considering at Christmas, one of my hydrocodone went missing. I know that because I count them every single time she's been in my house. Aside from this family emergency, she's been doing her usual boundary stomping. Sometimes she'll drop by when they're in our state to let us see the kids, Nugget, Peanut, and my stepnephew, and she acts like she owns the place. The last time she was over, she told me she was going to grab one of my drinks from the fridge. I said they weren't in the big fridge, that they were in the mini fridge in my bedroom, and I'd prefer if she didn't. She flat out said, "I don't care, I'm going back and getting one." I flat out said my room was a huge mess, and I did not want her back there, and that she needed to respect my no. I had to tell her no over 10 times before she eventually got the hint and sat down all butthurt about it. Then when it was time for them to leave, she hugged me. She knows I hate it when she touches me. I'm neurodivergent, so I have a small group of people I'm okay touching me, and she is not on that list. I didn't hug her back, I had my arms crossed. I flat out told her, "This hug is uncomfortably long, you need to get off." And she told me to shut up and get over it, that she was going to hug her little sister. I told her she needed to respect my boundary, and she straight up told me that she wasn't going to do that. That hug lasted for over a minute. One reason I hate her hugging me is partially because her personal hygiene is horrible. She always reeks of body odor, she rarely showers, she doesn't wear deodorant, her hair is always greasy, it's disgusting. It's not even a mental health thing, she actively brags about how she just doesn't shower or wear deodorant. Listen, I myself struggle with mental health issues and some health issues after having COVID. Showers exhaust me, and I now frequently get dizzy or even have my vision go black when I overheat in the shower, but I cannot take lukewarm or cold showers. Because of this, I shower much less frequently. However, I make sure I don't smell bad when I'm in public or around people. If it's been too long, I'll wipe myself down with scented wet wipes and make sure I've applied deodorant and perfume. I just know that when this baby is born, Candy will demand I stay with her to take care of all the kids while she recovers from another C-section. She can't give vaginal birth. Despite the fact she has multiple other adults living with her, including her fiancé, I know she'll demand that I come take care of her and her kids, including the newborn. She did the same thing when I was still working at the nursing home and she was about to give birth to Peanut. She was actually acting like it was a done deal that I was going to take up to a month off work to raise her kids while she recovered. And I know it's going to be worse since I no longer work at the nursing home and am now self-employed, so I can take as much time off as I want. It's not happening, I meant it when I said I'm done raising her kids. She has a support system, and I do not need to be part of that system. I'm struggling enough as is with my own mental and physical health problems. She is the last person I need in my life. The next time she claims to have gotten a hysterectomy, I'm not going to believe her. However, if she keeps having kids, it will kill her. Several of her pregnancies have almost killed her. Her body was simply not made to sustain having kids. This is her 11th pregnancy, and we've straight up told her that if she keeps having kids, it will kill her. She doesn't even want the kids. She just likes the attention she gets when she's pregnant. She doesn't care that it's ruining her health. It'll be a miracle if this pregnancy goes smoothly for her. Oh, and she is still claiming my ex-brother-in-law abused her. Our entire family knows it's a lie, that she abused him. I actually witnessed her physically abusing him when they were still married. She was up in his face, screaming at him and hitting him in the face. He was remaining calm and trying to walk away. Eventually, he gently grabbed her wrists to stop her from hitting him, and she started screaming that he was hurting her. He wasn't. She's anemic, so she bruises extremely easily. The smallest bump will bruise her, and he left no bruises on her wrists. That was how gently he grabbed her. He did not hurt her. She's still claiming he kidnapped the older two and illegally took them out of state. But that's a bold-faced lie, considering she knows damn well our mother was in the courtroom when he was granted custody and encouraged to get the kids out of our state away from Candy. Either way, I'm just tired. Our mom was a wreck, and she didn't need that kind of stress while her big brother was laying in the ICU with a tube down his throat. My uncle is currently stable, but still critical. He had 7 blockages in his heart, and 3 of his 4 bypasses failed, and he most likely will not qualify for another one. Even if he did, he's not stable enough for a surgery right now. He had a 100% blockage in the widowmaker, which is what caused the heart attack. He's currently awake and talking, and he's gotten up and walked a bit, but can't do much. There's a pretty good chance that he'll come to live with my mom and dad, so he'll just be right next door and I can visit him whenever I feel like it. My mom is currently looking into getting her porch and ramp rebuilt just for him in case he's in a wheelchair when he gets released, since he is extremely unsteady on his feet and was having a lot of balance issues and falls before his heart attack. I did manage to keep my comments to myself and mostly focused on my mom and my cousins before my uncle woke up. Larry was having a particularly hard time since a lot of the pressure of decisions was on him since he's the oldest out of his siblings and the fact that his girlfriend is pregnant. Jason actually drove us back to our home in my car since I'd been awake for nearly 2 days straight and was not okay to drive, and he let me break down in the car on the way back. That's what I do. I keep it all in when the emergency is currently happening and won't let myself break down until I'm away from my family. I did partake in some not-so-great coping mechanisms, got high the first night on weed, nothing hard, and then got drunk and high the night after. But I was being supervised by Jason and his roommate Randy, who is essentially my younger brother. Randy is my best friend's younger brother and basically adopted me as his older sister. I stayed over at their place for a couple nights, since I did not need to be left alone, and Jason slept on the couch and let me have his bed. He and Randy also listened while I ranted about how pissed off I am at Candy over and over again. Candy also tried to hug Jason. Jason knows all about her and was there the Christmas Candy told all of our cousins that I'm an alcoholic. Again, I'm not. I rarely drink, usually only on birthdays or holidays. He knows about all the crappy things she's said and done in the past, so he did not want her near him. He didn't let her. He quickly backed up and gave her a fist bump instead to not cause a scene. Luckily, it was just Candy there, not Cody, her fiancé. He hasn't been aggressive with me since the first time I met him, but he still scares the crap out of me and I don't like being around him. Mainly, I'm just happy to be home. My dogs and cats missed me a ton. However, allergies and a possible sinus infection are kicking my butt. I always get some form of illness whenever I get overly stressed, but luckily this is pretty minor compared to other stress illnesses I've had in the past. Mainly, I'm just sick of Candy and how she acts. Sorry if this update is all over the place. I'm super tired and pretty sick. It feels like my face is trying to explode from the pressure in my sinuses. I wish I could go fully no contact with her, but I adore my nieces and nephews, and I also won't exclude myself from family gathering just because of her. Oh, one more thing. She's still making up lies to try and get our mother to turn against me. She can't stand how close my mother and I are, so when we were at my aunt's place, she was making up things I supposedly did when I was younger to try and get our mom pissed off at me. It didn't work. Which she naturally had a hissy fit about. Like, I'm an adult, I've told her pretty much all the stupid crap I did as a kid and teen. What is she gonna do? Ground me? I'm almost 23. I really just wish Candy would grow up. She's almost 30 and still acts like a bratty teenager. However, I know better. She will never change, and I've accepted that. I've just distanced myself as much as possible and don't keep her updated on my life. She has no reason to know anything about my life, nor does she deserve to be included in my life or what is going on in it. For some reason, she's weirdly obsessed with my sex life, which is just weird and creepy. I actually had to tell her to stop talking about my sex life in front of Jason and my family. She can't accept the fact that I'm not getting intimate with Jason. She thinks that I must be hooking up with him because he and I are still good friends despite being exes. We're not. We haven't hooked up since before we broke up. Not that it's any of her business. I'm just tired and don't have the energy to fight with her anymore. I'm sick of having to be the bigger, more mature person whenever she's around. Sorry again for the long update. I just needed to get all of this off my chest. I'm already struggling, but trying to keep it together for my mom and my cousins. I'm letting my friends think I'm doing okay, but I'm really not. Don't worry, I'm no longer getting drunk or high. I'm mostly just going back to my normal routine. I just needed to not be sober for a bit those first couple days after my uncle's heart attack. I don't even have any alcohol in my house. We're all good over here. For any of you that made it this far, thank you so very much for reading this mess. I hope I don't have to make another update, but knowing Candy, there will eventually be an update about her bullcrap again. Anyway, thank you for watching.